Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Crow, Wicked Prayer, starring Edward Furlong, Tara Reid, David Boreanaz, forgive me if I said that wrong, and Dennis Hopper, directed by Lance Munguia. Now, this is one I barely paid attention to because this is the one that kind of killed the series before we get the reboot. So let's just get straight into this movie. We open with a prison breakout by pestilence, war, famine, lovers Lola Byrne, played by Tara Reid, and Luke Crash, aka Death, played by David Boreanaz, forgive me if I said that name wrong, as the movie's antagonist, while the prisoners are building a casino which feels unnecessary and never comes back to the movie again, as each of their missions are revenge. A priest throws a rock at children, and the rocks at children, I should say, and the children throw them back and remind me, what the fuck does this have to do with The Crow that the audience has seen before? As this felt like a Western version of the story. And do these antagonists work for me as characters? Absolutely fucking not. While they almost kill the priest, and that sounds like any antagonists, or they do actually, now that I think about it, in general, until Lola stops Luke from killing the priest, and Luke asks Lola if she'll marry him, and I don't get chemistry from these two actors. We move on to the town where Jimmy Curvo, I can't say the name right, please forgive me, played by Edward Furlong from Terminator 2, as an outcast and is in love with Lily, played by Emmanuel Chirique. I don't know if I said that name right, please forgive me. While her father, Harold, played by Danny Trejo, and her brother, the sheriff, Tanner, doesn't approve of their love. And that sounds like any Meet the Parents movie in general. And these actors are all terrible in this film. And Edward Furlong is poisonous in this film, as I can't believe that's the movie's protagonist. While this was shot in Salt Lake City, in Utah, this feels like a Western version of what Brandon Lee has shown the audience before, as Jimmy's car breaks down, but rides a bicycle until Tanner pulls over and says, stay away from Lily, and just say goodbye to her as he wants to propose marriage to Lily. And none of this is working, and the cinematography felt like a very bad Western movie. As Jimmy goes in the store and sees Luke, Lola, and their goons are waiting for Jimmy, so they can kill Lily, and Lola takes Lily's eyeballs. And Luke takes Jimmy's heart, and I know it's fake, so I wasn't as squeamish this time around. Luke becomes Satan after killing Lily and Jimmy, and the effects in this looked like shit. Like any bullshit straight to video, and the bad guys bury Jimmy and Lily, and they hang in their lair, and I swear to God, the more Edward Furlong and Tara Reid says in this movie, the less I like the movie, as they were both all the other actors are horrible in this movie. Absolutely fucking horrible. Jimmy wakes up as he sees he died and Lily remains dead, and Jimmy is pissed and delivers the body to the store she works at, and he thinks about getting vengeance against Luke, Lola, and their goons, as Jimmy learns he can't kill himself, and a crow resurrects him, and he puts on the makeup and tries to look like Brandon Lee and the others, but doesn't, and burns down the trailer of his. And am I making sense of this movie? I honestly can't, as this not only doesn't make sense, but it is the movie that not only jumped the shark but killed the franchise until we get the reboot. Tanner is very upset about the death of Lily, as is Harold, and next thing you know, Luke, Lola, and their goons interrupt a wedding and take a priest who happens to be named Moses' life away from him by killing the poor guy, and the goons to kill everybody in the church. And the sound effects sound similar to other movies, and I've heard gunshots from which doesn't sound original. While Jimmy visits the new sheriff named Cortez in town and asks where Luke is at, and he doesn't say, and they beat each other up until Jimmy electrocutes Cortez, but it doesn't kill him, which shocks me to death. And it says to give Luke a message, as he won't, and I mean, come on, he kills him off and gets a crow look to him as a funeral home driver freaks out. And Jimmy sleeps there while Harold, Tanner, and other townspeople have a meeting about killing Jimmy. And this movie is a pile of garbage shit. We get to a point of view of the crow going to the church, and Jimmy goes inside and heals Moses' life back to life, which is something I can't make sense of because crows don't heal people. As Moses' mother points a gun at Jimmy because she remembered Jimmy beating up Moses, and she says don't ask her to forgive him. Moses, as she doesn't understand what happened, or now he resurrected Moses, and to be honest, I can't make sense of any of this bullshit. And we move on to Jimmy coming back to Luke and Lola for vengeance, but unfortunately, the spell has powers of Satan to push the crow away from Satan himself. And Luke kills the crow and wounds Jimmy, but doesn't kill him. But one of the goons shoots at the people under the blanket and is willing to kill a kid, which is completely unnecessary, as I get the impression there was no reason to make this movie, nor there's no reason to watch this movie whatsoever. Tanner hears Jimmy is still alive as Tanner encounters Jimmy and tells him he didn't kill Lily as he loved her too much, and Tanner doesn't believe him, and he learns it wasn't Jimmy, but it was Luke and Lola, while Luke and Lola go in a club and chat with Cara Mia and El Nino, played by Dennis Hopper, and shows Luke has the powers of Satan. And this feels very dumb horror action movie like Ghost Rider, for example. Luke and Lola get married by El Nino until a car shows up, which happens to have Jimmy sneaking up on them and attack the goons, while Harold points the gun and tries to attack Jimmy, which interrupts the wedding, and Luke and Lola and the townspeople kill the goons, while Harold wants to shoot Jimmy, while Tanner says don't shoot him, and Luke becomes the Antichrist after kissing and getting resurrected by Lola, as the goons try to commit suicide by dynamite, and it blows up an image of the crow showing up while Jimmy comes in and is pushed back by Luke and is hurt by Luke and puts him in the cross. And Lola thinks about what El Nino did to her, over what she did to her, and kills him off. And she walks out of the building and tells Harold she loved taking Lily's eyes out. And it proves she killed her, as she and Luke drive away, which is so goddamn stupid, by the way, folks. Come on. Luke and Lola drive away while the townspeople, along with Tanner and Harold, take down Jimmy and forgives him by letting Jimmy go after Luke and Lola buy cars. Somehow Danny Trejo takes his shirt off to dance to resurrect the crow, which was so unnecessary. While Luke and Lola have a brief sex moment until Jimmy pulls up and they once again fight as Jimmy is getting his ass handed to him, while the motherfucker doesn't fight back until the crow is resurrected and comes to the fight. And beats Luke's ass, while Lola looks disappointed as she puts on her sunglasses as her eyes are bleeding. And Luke is killed the same way Wolverine was killed in Logan. And Tanner and Harold comes to the scene and arrests Lola while Jimmy cuts Luke's neck, and drives away and goes back to death along with Lily. And this climax is the worst. This movie is also the worst, and I'll explain why in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.3 out of 10. I hate the protagonists and antagonists, as they don't work for me, as this feels like a Western movie than a goth movie than the previous movies had, and I wasn't squeamish about anything in this movie, as either wasn't paying attention the first time. I fell asleep the second time, and this third viewing, I wanted to get out of this movie, as this is one of the worst of the series. We'll see how the new movie goes. The effects in this movie look like shit, like any other bullshit straight-to-video movie, as this doesn't feel like the goth movie the previous movies had. And I'm not a fan of Westerns, as this might prove to me why I'm not, as this felt like it, despite it was filmed in Salt Lake City, in Utah. And the more Tara Reid and Edward Furlong spoke, The less I like the movie, as the actors are horrible in this movie. Absolutely fucking horrible. This is the movie that jumped the shark and completely killed the franchise, and no wonder we got a reboot coming out soon, as this one felt very one-dimensional, and this is a strong non-recommendation, and we'll see how the reboot goes, but this is so far the worst in the series, as there is no reason to make this movie nor watch it whatsoever. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with the reboot, the 2024 version starring Bill Skarsgård, and until then, based on this shirt, am I mad, dude man? Well, guess what, dude man? I'm pissed at this series!